Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. We'll get started in just a minute. I'll give y'all a second to get settled in. In the meantime, be sure to drop where you're joining from in the chat. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to put those in there as well. We'll be answering and interacting throughout the webinar, but just to save everyone some time, I'm not going to be answering questions live. So go ahead, post them in the chat. But I'll give you a few more seconds to get settled, and then we'll get started on the webinar. All right, then, let's go. Hello and welcome, everyone. Happy to have you joining us today for our webinar, Title IV Made Easy: How to Automate Reporting, Reduce Stress, and Protect Your Funding. We're going to talk about Title IV funding in the United States and how IntelliBoard automates reporting around student enrollments and participation data that's crucial to securing and retaining this funding. These programs collectively account for billions, yes, with a B, billions of dollars in funds that help students achieve higher levels of education, making proactive student outreach that increases retention and maintains eligibility a vital part of any school's data strategy. Over the next few minutes, we'll look at what Title IV is, though I'm sure most of you are aware already, and what it means to higher education. Then we'll dive into the ways that IntelliBoard's default reports ease the burden on everyone in higher education when it comes to reporting. Now, these are data sets that are included with every IntelliBoard subscription. They track student attendance or participation data and make reporting on those metrics incredibly simple. No more bugging your instructors for spreadsheets and updates. No more chasing people down, having to combine things from different systems. We're also going to explore combining the LMS data with student information system data and how you can really get all your reporting concentrated in one centralized location. And throughout, I'll mention some real-world use cases that our clients have in practice today, including some nifty customized solutions that we developed alongside them. These solutions are easy to implement at your school, and I will say this a bunch of times, I'm sure, but we handle the setup. We at IntelliBoard get our platform connected to your LMS, SIS, attendance, manual data sources, whatever you have out there that you need in one location, we can help with that. We personalize user roles for your school that can even launch a suite of tailored reports to any role you feel needs access to this data. Our goal is always to save you time, save you dollars, and most importantly, improve student retention, success, and outcomes. All right, so what is Title IV? Well, like I mentioned just a minute ago, it is the broad term for federal student financial aid programs in the United States. It refers specifically to Title IV of the Higher Education Act of 1965, which is one of 9 components of that legislation that sought to broaden access to education in the United States. And to bring in some numbers around that, in the academic year 2023 to 2024 alone, some 8.5 million students received over $122 billion in Title IV funding overall. I'll put the breakdown in funding up here on the screen, where you could see that Pell Grants and direct loans account for by far the most out of all of this. $31.2 billion in Pell Grants with over nearly 6.5 million recipients, nearly $90 billion in direct loans with over 100,000 recipients. And then things like Teach Grants, federal work study and the federal supplemental educational opportunity grants. It's a mouthful. Those account for a bit less, but still not an insignificant number in federal funds. Over 60% of college enrollees at all levels, across all levels in the U.S., applied for federal aid programs during this 23 to 24 academic year. And 2025 projections estimate that disbursements will reach $135 billion or more, with the acceptance rate of applicants growing a little over 1% per year. Furthermore, these programs are set to expand in 2026 with the Workforce Pell Grant that brings Title IV funding to non-credit programs. So certifications, training, maybe more vocational type programs, things that we wouldn't necessarily think of as higher education spending should be included under this banner once that goes live. And this touches on all kinds of higher education and students from all backgrounds. Errors or delays in reporting for eligibility can have massive downstream effects. They can impact accreditation. They could complicate your institutional planning for the future. And we know that there's a ton of additional funding left on the table. In that same 23 to 24 academic year, students missed out on over $4 billion in unclaimed grant funding. And that's additional funding that could have found its way to schools like yours if students maintained eligibility and claimed all the funds available to them. Now, IntelliBoard set out to address these challenges. We wanted to provide proactive, immediate data flow for enrollments, assignment submissions, attendance, all the things that prove students are spending time and effort in their courses. We wanted to eliminate the kind of manual reporting processes that lead to those errors that can take months to reconcile, and along the way end up losing both student enrollments and tuition dollars. And maybe most importantly, we wanted to make this quick, simple, and easy to use. Something we can hand to you and you can hand to your stakeholders to instantly see the value of the data and be able to take action on it. So, how many of you out there think your reporting solution is simple or easy to use? Or let me phrase it this way. Can you get reporting for Title IV out in just one day? If you could, what might that process look like? What does it mean for the person hours? How many different people do you need to chase down? How many different admins of systems do you need to engage? How many reports do you need to combine from how many different systems? And then the time that it takes to check for errors and do validation and ensure that you have everything you need. I'll give you a second. I'll type it out. Just make sure we get everyone's comments in there. It's difficult, right? It's difficult. Certainly doing all of this in the span of 24 hours is probably near impossible if you're a larger institution, a larger school. Well, hopefully that's why you're joining us today. IntelliBoard has worked with dozens of institutions over the past 10 years to make so much of this student data available in just one report or dashboard. So let me swap my screen over to IntelliBoard and we can start off with walking through a few of our default reports. Remember, these are included with IntelliBoard, so no additional setup needed. You just tell us the user roles and these will be available to them from the get-go. All right, great. So I'm in My Datasets. This menu you can think of as the place for reports that are tailored to your user role and where you can bookmark the things that you use the most or store any customizations you might create. If you're a registrar or an auditor, which is what our first user story will touch on, you'll already have relevant data sets in here, such as the first submission report that we'll look at in a minute. Likewise, for instructors, you would get things like the instructor dashboard and course engagement tools. Advisors would get student progress reports. We've taken steps to make sure you have this suite of reports ready to go when you log in, regardless of what your user role may be. And then depending on access permissions, you may have the ability to add reports to the library beyond that, or modify what's here if there are additional data fields that you want to see in your data sets. But at the least, you'll have a number of reports available from the start that give you some of the most important data that you can leverage in your role. With all that said, let's jump into the first learner submission report. Right. We're looking at this as an administrator. So we're going to see all the active courses this semester. Astute viewers might notice I've already filtered this out to just fall 2025. And this is where we've seen this data set used primarily in the wild, is as a registrar or an auditor or an admin. So if you want other user roles to have access to this, we can work with you on getting the permissions set up, so those users would only see the courses and students that they are supposed to see. So we can filter this down to individual instructors, so on and so forth. Now, this is a fairly straightforward data set. You get one row per student, per enrollment, that shows you when their first assignment was submitted to a course. And you get that course info, the start date, the assignment name, and the type, and a handy little count up top on the sum card that tells you the total number of learners who have completed at least one assignment. We can take a look at the filters to play with if you want to narrow this down to a single course or a date range. And we can come over here to our search box where we can once again search for a single learner, a single course, an instructor. Any of the data fields are searchable through this search box here. Shout out to Charles Lee, our Director of Solutions Consulting, a huge golfer and golf fan. So if any of you are wondering if these names are based on something, yes, they're all golfers. You can also export this report in Excel or CSV format, print, share, schedule it to go out, whatever you need for easy sharing or submission to get it out beyond IntelliBoard through this share button here. This data set is a great first glance at students who have participated in a course already. The data is automatically updated every 24 hours, so there's no lagging indicators here. It's aggregated across all courses, all sections, all instructors, and even potentially different schools or sub-accounts, depending on how your LMS is set up. I haven't mentioned this yet, but just the ability to see all this data in a single location and not have to jump from course to course as an instructor or create some custom report that does this if you're an admin, that's huge. That saves a ton of time and frustration in itself. You don't need to fight with the LMS or create your own tracking systems for all of this. If you use the LMS for assignments, you use the gradebook, all of this is going to show up here within 24 hours. All right, let's pop back over to my data sets. And next we can look at the first submission monitoring dashboard. This is a similar report to what we just looked at with the first learner submission. It combines that first learner submission report with the missing learner submission report. Now, once again, I've filtered this down to fall 2025. And thankfully, I only have a few students with missing submissions. Most of our learners are doing all right and participating in IntelliBoard demo data land. What this dashboard does is give you both sides of the submission data coin. Not only can we report on the students who are maintaining their eligibility by participating in courses, but we can be proactive with students who have not yet participated. And you can use this dashboard as the basis for outreach to those students, where a little nudge might be all it takes to get them involved and get them working on school. We know how difficult that could be sometimes. I'm an instructional designer, I get it. We've seen success with clients rolling this out across instructors, deans, department chairs. I mentioned the instructor outreach bit already, but as a dean or a department chair, you can also infer a lot about instructor or course efficacy from this as well. And you can use our built-in quick notifications feature to message people directly from IntelliBoard. And I'll pop this open here. But we can also include data points from these reports to bolster those notes. And these data sets aren't just used for Title IV reporting. Mitchell Community College in North Carolina uses this missing submission report to prevent fraud enrollments and maintain their student rosters. They're a small school, they have limited personnel resources, and they wanted to automate more of their data practices. IntelliBoard helping them deploy these reports certainly accomplishes the automation piece, but it's really helped them clamp down on fraud enrollments that can siphon away not only federal funds, but other school resources from their actual students. The first learner submission report and the submission monitoring dashboards are two of the quick and easy out-of-the-box options for enrollment verification. They work with Moodle, Canvas, Blackboard, and D2L. We get those set up for you. We ensure that these reports are being seen by the right people and teach you how to leverage this data for meaningful change. Now, I want to look at another user story that leverages our default reports and makes great use of our notifications feature beyond what I mentioned just a little bit ago with the quick send. It takes some of these things that we just looked at and puts it into practice. Pamlico Community College requires online students to go no more than 5 days without accessing a course. They automatically withdraw students from the course if there's no attendance for 14 days. Of course, this has implications for tuition dollars, and keeping students engaged in courses keeps them enrolled and ultimately leads to better outcomes. Now, attendance data for online learners can be difficult. We collect page views and time spent, and those are one way to have some proof of access for the course, but they aren't descriptive. They don't tell us much about if and how a student is interacting with the course. Assignment attempts and submissions, though, those are both things that we can work with. They show actual proactive attempts by the student to engage with course material. They are a sign that someone is in the course doing the work. So we worked with Pamlico on improving proactive outreach for their online learners. And we started from our inactive learners dashboard. Let me get that open. This is another IntelliBoard default report. It combines our inactive learners and courses bar chart with a detail report below. Yeah. So we get at-a-glance data showing how many learners have never accessed a course or have not accessed a course within a certain number of days. I'll pop up to filters here and we can look at this. I've got it set to 2 weeks right now. You can choose whatever time frame you want, really. And our access data is a little wonky because we don't have students logging in every day to our demo site. We could also choose certain courses depending on how narrow you want the data to be. But we have this bar chart showing us at a glance how many students in each course have either never accessed or have not accessed the course within a certain time frame. Below that, the inactive learners detail report shows one row per enrollment for each student that hasn't accessed a course. This does mean a student can show up on here multiple times, so you're not seeing an error that there's the same student listed a few times. It just means that they haven't accessed multiple courses. There's one row per enrollment. We get direct links to the student's LMS profile, their email address, and the course itself, a link directly to the course itself, followed by the days since access and some grade information, their overall point score, their current grade, and some more access information at the end here. Let me slide over. We use this to deploy a series of notifications for Pamlico's instructors. They receive these notifications at intervals of 5, 9, and 14 days after the course start. And this alerts them to students who haven't submitted assignments to the course. And this is key for outreach efforts, where having this kind of fresh data allows them to keep students enrolled and eligible for funding, and allows administrators to pull those students from the course at that 14-day mark to help, once again, prevent fraud enrollments. Now, I do want to pop into the notification creator real quick. I won't walk through the whole process here on how to set that up. You can watch our YouTube channel for that, where I talk about things like this in depth, but we can take a peek at how it works. And with the data set and filters used for Pamlico, the instructor only gets notified if they have students who have not completed any course assignments. Likewise, that LMS admin who is doing these withdrawals, processing these withdrawals after a certain number of days, they're only getting this report if they have students who have not accessed the course in that time frame. Once again, unlike fiddling with the LMS, you get all of the instructor's courses in a single report. There's no jumping from course to check on this. There's no downloading multiple reports and mashing them together. There's no special setup or report queries to run. This is an IntelliBoard default. It comes out of the box. You have access to this right away. And we are more than happy to set up the notification structure and exports for you. We've done it before. It's second nature to us. We can also help you determine the best strategies for your faculty and your student populations, make sure the right data gets to the right people quickly. All of that is just part of what we do to make this process as painless and easy as possible for you as the end user. Speaking of this kind of setup and personalization, our final user story for today involves a little bit of everything. I've talked about the learning management system piece of the data puzzle, but you might be sitting there saying, so much of our relevant financial aid data and data about this comes from the student information system instead, and not the LMS. Things like the student level, if they're an undergrad or a graduate student or some other type of student demarcation, their degree program data, and even their official grades, right? I don't think many of you are tracking the official grades in the LMS. Those are all things that are likely to come from that SIS. And that presents quite the hurdle to reporting, right? Not only is there sensitive, personally identifying information for students in the SIS, but getting that data extracted and matched up to the LMS or other spreadsheets is time consuming and really leaves you open to errors. Think about how much time it might take to put these things together and hope they work right, or check the errors, do that sort of validation. Maybe this is also a good time to mention that IntelliBoard is compliant with several user privacy and data security standards. That includes FERPA, ISO 27001, NIST 800-53, SOC2, and FedRAMP Moderate. I've got trust.intelliboard.net. This is our Trust Hub. It's a separate site that contains all of this information, all of our certifications and standards that we hold ourselves to and that we are certified for. You should see the link on the screen as well if you want to look further into that. But all of this to say that the privacy and security around the data that is contained in the LMS and of course the SIS, that's paramount to us. We want to continue providing secure data access to this. But this is where our final user story comes in. For Grambling State University, we built and deployed a dashboard that contains and combines data from their Ellucian SIS, their Canvas LMS, and spreadsheet data from their instructors. Now, in the spirit of all the compliance acronyms that I just listed, showing you Grambling's actual report would probably be in poor taste. Instead, I'll open this prototype version I built while we talk through the tools that made this possible. To start, to create this data set, we brought in external data through the Inform app. This connects IntelliBoard with those non-LMS external data sources via an upload tool. And let's pop into this app here up top so we can take a look under the hood, so to speak. Now, Inform gives us the ability to upload spreadsheet data that's either Excel or CSV. It automatically creates a custom table, and then we can link it to the LMS data using primary key identifiers. So for this particular example, I've got course ID and I've got student SIS ID, and both of those link to their respective fields in the LMS. So whenever those are used in a report, I can pull the data from this spreadsheet that I uploaded into that report as well and have it appear on the same line as it should be. To make sure this isn't a manual process, we offer two flavors of SFTP. Up here in our integrations menu, I'll just pop up here real quick. We can do traditional. We can point IntelliBoard to your server location. You select how frequently you want to refresh the data, and IntelliBoard will automatically download those data sets and refresh the reports that we've created. We can also set up hosted SFTP. If you're not comfortable setting up an SFTP server and having that stored on your side, you simply send your exported data to our secure servers, choose how frequently it refreshes, you enjoy it in your IntelliBoard reports. It says contact help desk because once again, we set this up for you. We're used to it. We can do it blindfolded. You get to relax and not worry about data science and connecting disparate educational data systems. Let's swap back to our custom dashboard for Grambling. Looking through this data set, the only learners that we're going to see are those with federal funding. We can see in this column that has all Ys here. That means everyone has federal funding attached to their enrollment. We get that information from the SIS along with some other user info, such as their ID, email address, name, and the student level. Everyone here is an undergrad, just for sake of brevity. We also get additional course information from the SIS here in green, such as the course reference number, some instructor info, and even the number of credits that the student should get for completing this course. And then we get the grade, last attend date, and online last attendance date. Those are all recorded by instructors. They upload their spreadsheets to a server location. IntelliBoard picks that up, like I mentioned, puts it into this report for you. And finally, we get some of the LMS data here in blue with the assignment data, such as the name and the date that it was completed. What this gives us is per enrollment data on each student that's receiving federal financial aid across the entire school. This is a report that would typically take hours to compile if you're doing this on a weekly basis, and we've reduced it to something that was set up once and then can be distributed across all kinds of users. And this is the kind of setup that we absolutely love to do. It's the kind of problem that we love to solve, where we can make your life easier and free you up to focus on things less tedious than spreadsheets and data science, right? Grambling uses this report to stay on top of student eligibility for federal funding. And all in one location, it answers the most common questions about that. It is the who is getting the funding, what is their attendance and their grade data look like, and are they participating in their courses to maintain that funding. Like the other data sets we looked at, this entire thing can be exported, meaning that you've got a student eligibility report ready to go at a moment's notice. Something that we learned earlier isn't all that easy to do, especially not all that easy to have in the nick of time, right? And this is all just a user story that we took and we ran with to help out a client who really wanted to streamline their processes and make them far less manual than they were. And we've been able to save them time. We've been able to improve their reporting around this and ultimately, hopefully improve the retention that they're seeing with their students when they can be proactive, thanks to having this all in one place in a short time frame, not the kind of time frame that it would typically take to compile this data on its own. So I will close out from IntelliBoard. That is all I have to show off for today. I appreciate you joining us for this look at how IntelliBoard can simplify your Title IV reporting, hopefully lead to improved student outcomes, improve your retention, and in turn, protect your federal funding, all those dollars that you can get from maintaining student eligibility. We'll be in the chat for a few more minutes. We'll answer any questions you might have. Beyond that, feel free to reach out to us. You could check out our website, IntelliBoard.net. You can email us, info@IntelliBoard.net. Follow one of the QR codes here on the screen if you want to book a demo directly or you want to explore more of our content on YouTube. I would really appreciate that since I make all of it. If you do have any feedback about that, just leave a comment, let me know. But thanks, everyone. Hopefully we will hear from you soon. Have a great day.